Hey guys, Kim Stallings at Heritage Risk Advisors. So happy to be here. And in this module, we're going to talk about general contractors and builders risk insurance and what's up with all of that. Okay, so we're going to kind of talk about how both of them play together and then how each of them play individually. So hang in there with me. This one's going to take a minute. First, let's talk about being a general contractor. Whether you are acting as your own general contractor or if you're hiring a general contractor, you should carry some sort of commercial general liability, general contractors, artisan contractors, general liability. And what's that for? That's for third-party property damage and bodily injury. That's what general liability is. We can have a whole other module on general liability, and we will, but in this instance, that's what you're looking for. So if you're acting as your own contractor, remember a couple of things. If you're doing a number of projects throughout the year, you may be better suited by buying Gcgl, and that's General Contractors General Liability. It's usually a minimum premium. That's a set amount of money that you're going to spend, especially if you don't have a lot of volume. If you're not doing a whole lot in that, just kind of your own flips, maybe not, maybe a little working for somebody else. The things that are important in that policy are not only your policy limits, which are almost always 1 million, 2 million, but you want to make sure that there's coverage for completed ops. Product and completed operations. That's super important. And why is it important? Because some states, Texas being one of them, have what's called a statute of repose. Builders, general contractors, and anybody holding themselves out as a sub or a subcontractor is on the hook for a period of 10 years in the state of Texas for any work that they touch or say they were involved in. That's a really long time. You might do a project and you might flip that house and it may sell 2 or 3 more times in a 10-year period. But if they can trace back damage to a claim from a builder defect or a general contractor defect or a subcontractor that you hired defect, they're going to expect you to pay for it. It's very possible that that future homeowner might get declined on their claim and they're going to expect you to give them recompense. So that's a problem. If you don't have product and completed operations, you're going to miss out on being able to leverage that in the work that you're doing when you're holding yourself out as a general contractor. So this is really also important when you're hiring a general contractor. You want to make sure when you're looking over your contractor's insurance that they have coverage for product and completed ops for this very same reason. And when you're in contract with them, there's 3 things that are super important. Number 1, you want to be listed as an additional interest, additional insured on their policy. Any contractor gives you any flack about that, you might want to seriously consider looking for a different contractor. They should have a policy that has unlimited blanket AI. Blanket additional insured. That doesn't cost them a dime to add you and take you off with any other client in their portfolio. It takes 2 minutes for them to send that request to their insurance agent and get a certificate back that puts you in the bottom as a cert holder as a named insured. Please, please, please make sure you get that if you're hiring anybody. Number 2. In your contract with them that you enter into, you want 2 pieces of information. 1 is a hold harmless. You want to be held harmless, and 2, indemnified against anything that they or their staff or their subs or their sub-subs or their contractors might do on your site. Super, super, super important. That's legal information. I'm not a lawyer, but you're going to want to make sure it's in your contract with those people. Hold harmless and indemnification language coupled with an insurance policy from them where you're named as an AI is how you get yourself out of a lawsuit when something bad happens. You hand that to the judge and say, Your Honor, I did my due diligence. I covered all my risk. This is not my problem. He goes, hey, yeah, you're right. Boom. Because you've got both pieces of an invaluable contract that says that you tried to mitigate all the risk and the onus is put back on your contractor. So now you know what you need at a bare minimum if you're going to be your own general contractor. And now you know what they need if you're going to hire a general contractor. Both of those are very, very important. And remember, neither of those general liability policies covers premises liability. So if your insurance agent says, great, I'm glad that you've got general liability for this issue, you still need premises liability, which is really, really cheap. That's just covering the general premise if any other third-party bodily injury or property damage thing happens. What could that be, Kimberly? What could this third-party issue be that's not covered by my contractor's general liability? Well, you'd be surprised to hear that a vandal might come in to rob your place when you've got it almost fixed and taken care of, and they fall through a skylight and they break their leg on your slate floor and they sue you and they win. And it happens all the time, and that has nothing to do with any kind of safeguard that you didn't put in. I've seen it happen. There's case law on record for it happening. We're talking about kids that come over and they get hurt breaking in, they cut themselves on glass when they bust a window. These sorts of things are premises liability issues. Maybe when you're selling the property because you're at the end of the flip, your realtor is showing a prospective buyer and they slip down the handrail and break their ankle. Premises liability claim. So in addition to the general liability for the construction that you have going on, the property itself needs its own liability. And that's very, very inexpensive. So just because I'm saying you need the coverage doesn't mean I'm asking you to break yourself open and lose all your money on your investment. It's just the right way to cover it, and there's two different things to do. Okay? Now let's talk about a builder's risk insurance policy. If you have a property and it's undergoing construction, that's a whole rainbow of differences. We might be only doing a little interior cosmetic, a little paint and carpet, or we might be ripping out walls, completely redoing the foundation and adding 300 or 400 square feet to the side and a whole second story. These are very different things. For your little interior cosmetic flip, maybe you're just doing a cleanup and you're wholetailing, you're retailing, you're reselling, you're wholesaling, you're going to hold it for a very short amount of time. You may want something that's called a vacant dwelling with a renovation endorsement. You're doing lipstick. You're doing real cosmetic. You're not opening walls. You're not really replacing walls. It's a little paint. It's a little lipstick. It's a little floor. It's a little cleanup. Okay? So you could get away with a vacant dwelling with a renovation endorsement. Every carrier is different. For some of them, they'll put a roof replacement in a vacant dwelling with a renovation endorsement. Others won't touch anything they consider structural, like a roof replacement. Okay? When it doesn't fall underneath the category of vacant dwelling with renovation, then we have to move what's called a builder's risk, maybe an inland marine builder's risk. Everybody has kind of a different way of stating it. We get to a real builder's risk when we're doing real work, when we're totally retiling, when we're doing a new roof, maybe we're playing with the foundation. There's lots of reasons why you might need a real, true builder's risk policy. And those policies are better than the policies that are vacant dwelling with renovation endorsement. They just cover more. When you get into a builder's risk policy, now we're talking about coverage for blueprints, for landscaping, for theft, for product in transit that you're having to have shipped in, for maybe product that's being stored in the house, which you should never do, but maybe you did, and so it hasn't been installed yet. These things are really important. Most vacant dwelling policies don't cover theft, but a real builder's risk policy does cover theft. That's a pretty big difference. You don't want to know the properties that I've seen. They finish it, they put it on the market, somebody comes in, they steal all the appliances, they steal the lighting, they steal the toilets, and they run out the window. And what do? It's a problem. So it's important to realize what kinds of stuff and in what situation you're putting your property in to see what kind of policy you might need. Note to self also, in most builder's risk policies, you get coverage at actual cash value for the existing structure and replacement costs for the betterments, the upgrades, the additions, the renovation that you're doing to the property. But maybe you're only holding the property a short amount of time, so you'd rather have replacement cost on a vacant dwelling with renovation policy because you're more worried about getting the full value of the house if it burns down because you're holding it short, versus maybe I'm really worried about the project going sideways or all my materials being stolen as they season and age hardwood floors in the house, and so I'm willing to take this other builder's risk policy. Every situation is different. Every situation needs to be put under the microscope to make sure that we're getting you the right amount of coverage for the right amount of risk for that individual project. And that's what your agent's here for. So I'm super happy that you stuck with me on this module. My name again is Kim Stallings at Heritage Risk Advisors, and I'll see you in the next one.